And I think with Vivobarefoot's 9 pillars of natural health, it just packs so much into one single course. When it comes to these 9 principles specifically, every single one is backed by studies, and I literally don't see a single person who couldn't benefit from incorporating some of them, if not all of them, into their life. My name is Ross Edgley, and I'm an endurance swimmer. So when I first saw Vivobarefoot's 9 principles of natural health, I think the reason I loved it is because so often people just kind of go through life with no manual, no user guide for their brain or their body. And that sounds so strange to say, but you genuinely don't know how to run it. You sort of figure it out as life goes on. I've been fortunate enough to study sports science. I love philosophy, so I've sort of tried to put my own together. But when it comes to these 9 principles specifically, every single one is backed by studies, and I literally don't see a single person who couldn't benefit from incorporating some of them, if not all of them, into their life. All of the principles are amazing, but specifically there's a few that I really incorporate and have done for years now. So firstly, I think the hot and cold therapy, it's become very trendy right now, and for good reason as well. I think when you look at the Scandinavian countries, they've been doing it for hundreds of years, and now studies are sort of catching up, and the Scandinavian countries are going, yes, we know. We've been practicing and preaching this for years. But specifically, what I love about this is when most people go into the gym, they might talk about, what are you training? And they'll say, well, I'm training strength, my body's ability to generate force. I'm training cardiorespiratory endurance. Okay, great. Is that aerobic or anaerobic? But very few people go into the gym and say, I am going to train the vasodilation and vasoconstriction of my capillaries. You know, I'm going to train to boost my immune system with white T cells. No one's saying that. Whereas now, I think people are. And people genuinely will go into the gym solely to do hot and cold therapy. And I think that has been sort of misunderstood for years, but now is just valuable and just being practiced. Obviously, psychological resilience. This is something that I try to practice and preach myself, but specifically, you only have to look back to 1936. So there was Hans Selye, a Hungarian physician, and basically he looked at a lab full of rats, and what he found by giving these lab rats a lethal dose of poison, they keeled over and died. However, by giving them a little bit of poison, a little bit more, they built up an intolerance to it. And what happened is he just created this lab just full of indestructible lab rats who were just eating poison for lunch, dinner and supper, and they could survive. And I think what happened after that is with strength and conditioning, a lot of people started to realize, hang on, stress is a good thing. A little bit of stress is great because any organism, whether it's psychological or physiological, will respond to that. It will become more resilient. And that's exactly what happened in strength and conditioning. People realize, hang on, if you're able to lift 5 kilos this week and then 10 kilos next week, and we slowly, progressive overload, increase that, we will basically just create these indestructible lab rats. And the same exists for hot and cold exposure, whether it's volume, if you're an endurance runner, it's the same principle that stress and stimuli are a good thing if done systematically in the right doses. You too will become an indestructible lab rat. Light and sleep, obviously. And again, this is a thing that so often we don't understand how our body works with nature. Your circadian rhythms, your body's 24-hour biological clock. If you are not resetting that every single day, things are going to go haywire. So when people are understanding that they can't sleep at night, when they feel sluggish midday, it's because they're not working in accordance with the laws of nature. And I think light and sleep are so important, but it's also free to us. So often, if you can't commercialize it, there's probably not many studies on it, and people aren't investing in it because it's free. But ultimately, I think what Vivobarefoot are doing, which is amazing, is just making this information available to everybody. So even though it's free, that doesn't mean that it's not incredibly powerful, and that's what's happening now. When it comes to movement, obviously that's an incredibly broad term, but specifically I want to focus on strength training. So strength training as a modality has been shown through various studies just to create a more physically robust human. There's this idea of mechanotransduction. So when people hear about strength training, they think, oh, okay, that's basically lifting weights so the muscles get bigger and they get stronger. And whilst that's true, mechanotransduction basically talks about this idea of ligaments, tendons, bones, everything getting stronger and responding to the stress and stimuli of strength training. So when it comes to trying to create a more physically robust and mentally robust human, you cannot neglect strength training. Guys, thank you so much for listening. As you can tell, I'm so passionate when it comes to everything that is science and philosophy. And I think with Vivobarefoot's 9 Pillars of Natural Health, it just packs so much into one single course. And everything is going to be completely free for everybody who buys footwear online.